make yourself a little bit of a safety net before you make that jump. Like everyone seems to have a Netflix subscription. Try to figure out a passive income stream as a second source of income that pays $15, $20 a month. Just start small, then move on to your next highest bill, and just kind of work it as one bill at a time. Start small and compound it. You'll find yourself getting there quicker than you probably thought.
Welcome, everyone, to the Road Less Traveled Show. This is a show about people that were successful in a previous career and left that career to go down a different path. I'm your co-host, Richard Coyne.
And I'm your co-host, Bill Zahller.
On today's show, we're so pleased to have John Rickgarn with us. John, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, John. Well, thanks again for being on the Road Less Traveled Show. To start with, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your background, what line of work you initially started down, and how long you were in that?
Sure. For at the time, it was about 1/3 of my life. I spent 12 years in the office equipment sales field, or business to business sales. Sold everything from tabletop printers to desktop phone systems, all the way to six-figure digital presses and everything in between. Did that for 12 years, exceeded my quota 9 out of those 12 years. Made a good living, was making six figures, but as time wore on, the 60-80-hour weeks, the corporate BS, for lack of a better term, just got to be kind of a grind, and just got to a point. It's like, I think I need to do something different in my life.
Excellent. And what path did that lead you down?
Well, so during my corporate career, I should probably take a step back. For a while, we were employee owned. So we got stock ownership in the company. I felt, hey, I'm home. This is what I'm going to do till I retire. Late 2015, we got the rug pulled out from us when the higher up said, yep, we sold the company to a private equity company, nonetheless, where all they care about is pinching pennies, profits before people, etc. So in 2016, I had bought my first investment property, was a fourplex, and kind of grew my portfolio slowly before I exited to kind of have additional streams of income. So that was kind of my exit out of the 80-hour work weeks, the going into real estate, private lending, and multiple diverse streams of passive income, as I call it.
Nice. I'll tell you what, that's so important. We preach that all the time as people are out there. Listen, you may love your W-2. There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Enjoy it. Do the best you can. Make support your family, and do support your company, grow the company, grow your wealth. But at the same point in time, think about another stream of income. Because that is so important, and most people just rely upon the paycheck, and I got a 401k, and you need more than that. I mean, fine, maybe you can do well with the 401k if the company has matching, great, but at the same point in time, you still need to do something beyond that. And perhaps if you're a whiz at the stock market and you're doing great in there, then maybe that's it for you. But Bill and I talk about the other streams of income just as another safety net, as another avenue, another way to build wealth. And obviously, John, you're agreeing, so you've had that conversation with other people too as well. Just it's important to build another stream of income, something.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest risk. So many people, I mean, you can think it's the most secure job, high paying job in the world, but if you're dependent on one, maybe two income streams, if your spouse works, and that can get pulled out from you very quickly, and then you have no income streams.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was in corporate America for a long time. I've retired from corporate America, and I've seen my share of shenanigans, and call it that. There was one particular company, this particular sales rep made an incredible, beautiful sale, and it was a very significant number, and the compensation was going to be very significant. Well, guess what? The company changed the rules.
Mm-hmm.
They deliberately messed with the comp plan in midstream during the year to actually lower the compensation because it was quote unquote too much.
Yeah.
What the thing that just blows my mind is, again, we talk about this as well. Never let your income be limited by the upside. Why on earth would you demotivate your top salesperson or an incredible salesperson by limiting the compensation? Okay, so fine. Maybe they go from making six figures to seven figures because they had an incredible year. But guess what? Your gross sales also went up by a significant amount because of that person's performance. So why would you limit that? seems like it's counterintuitive. So John, going back to, maybe your office sales days, I have Dunder Mifflin in the back of my head, but I know it's not quite the same thing. But anyway, going back to those days, is there a funny story you can share? Something happened to you?
Boy, I could probably share a number, from delivery screw ups, but one thing I kind of want to share, I consider it funny just because I went up to my boss. So my boss was very analytical. He knew how to run numbers. He knew how to play the gross profit leasing game. And he's like, I've seen everything. I've been in this business for whatever. And taking a step back, so our fiscal year went from November to October, and we got paid with our stock shares based on the percentage of what we made during that time. Well, about a year and a half in, I figured out, well, I can take up to a $10,000 draw against my next month's sales or commissions and put that into October versus waiting till November, which starts a new year. If I do that, then having it in this fiscal year versus next fiscal year, then depending on what goes up, that's an extra 9, 10, 12% growth just by moving that segment of my commission from one month to another. And my boss didn't even think about it. And he had been with the company a lot longer, and he was always the most analytical one. So he called me up one day. It's like, John, not that I'm not going to approve this, but why is it every year you always ask for this max draw? You're going to get paid anyways. Just wait till next month. And I gave him the whole spiel of what I was doing. There was like dead silence for 10 seconds or more. I thought I lost a connection. And then he just yelled out, "You are one smart mother." You can fill in the rest. But I'm sure everyone in his office could hear what he was saying, but I just kind of had to laugh. It's like, oh, I actually did something my very intricate analytical boss never thought of doing.
That's funny. Wow. Kudos to you. Because definitely I've seen my own personal compensation plan be mucked with year over year where, just somehow the corporate beast finds a way to take it out of you. So you got one over on them. So good for you.
Yep. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, they always said it's like, yeah, you can take up to a draw up to $10,000 as long as your boss approves it. Like, well, if I move 10K from this month to this month, it's 10,000 towards my employee stock ownership and 10% growth on that 10,000, do that for a few years. And that's one thing I figured out.
There you go. Nice.
Excellent. Well, John, you may have touched on it earlier, but kind of circle back there. What was the kind of deciding factor to get you to change career paths? It sounded like some of it was almost because the private equity stepped in, you could see the writing on the wall. But then how did you come up with the real estate and decide to move down that avenue?
So it I kind of had like two awakening moments, I'll call it. So back in late 2014, long story short, my wife decided to leave a very toxic work environment, go back to school and become a college professor. That was her dream. So I still remember November of 2014 that I was looking, it's like, okay, we're going to be down to one income. Can I sell some more machines, upgrade leases, etc.? And it just kind of dawned on me. It was like, okay, I was 31 years old. If I relive my life for that 31 years again, I'm still not that arbitrary retirement age of 60, 65. And that's if I make it that long. My parents passed away of cancer, but in their mid 50s. So that was kind of my first awakening moment. And that's when I started looking at, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I came across, podcasts, listened to that when I was on the road, anywhere from 100 to sometimes 250 miles a day. Started learning about, everything seems to cycle about or circle back to passive income and real estate. So started learning about that. Then when the private equity company pulled the rug out from under us, changed our comp plan, my compensation, I should say, got cut in half from 2015 to 2016. Then I was like, all right, I've been learning about this real estate thing for the last year and a half. I think it's time to take a deep dive. And Fourplex came on the market. That was my first purchase, and then just kind of went from there.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. And and again, that's I just still can't believe that the PE firm again would. I get it. They have to manage to a profit margin, et cetera. But at some point in time, they're cutting their nose off to spite their face in doing so. The way they did that, they took a top performer and mucked with your salary. And guess what? You were realizing it was time for you to find something else to do because they messed with you on that. That's too bad. So, John, as you mentioned the fourplex, and then obviously you've talked about that you do private lending, et cetera, and as well as other real estate things. So, what were there initially some obstacles you had to overcome as you really started driving down that other path?
Uh, well, yeah, I think with anything, there's always some obstacles. First, fourplex or investment I had, the one thing that was never talked about in any gurus or books that I read was check out if there's a homestead exclusion, because the owner before lived in one unit, rent out the other three. Fast forward a year, our property taxes went up considerably because, this is not owner occupied. Hence, we're going to bump up the property taxes. So that was probably my first hurdle. Beyond that, over the last, it's been 7 years since I got into real estate investing, just trying to, running a business, making sure, you're comparable to other rents in the area. Keep mindful of taxes, and especially now property insurance premiums we're starting to see go up, sometimes even double digits. So your costs go up, make sure you're passing along to your tenants in a tactful way, shall we say. But at the end of the day, it's like you got to run it like a business. I mean, you might get close to some of your tenants. Yeah, you might understand the scenarios they're in, but at the end of the day, you're running a business. It's okay to run a profit. And if your costs go up, their costs have to go up too.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Joe, what was looking back? What was one of your first victories? And it could be the fourplex or one of your first private lending deals, or what do you circle back to and kind of realize that was a good path to go down?
Sure. I'll probably mention it was actually our third property purchase, and it was kind of a mixture. My wife has family down in Tucson, Arizona, so we visit there, once or twice a year. It got to the point, it's like, what if we looked at a place, there's a short-term rental thing that seems to be taking off. What if we look at a place to stay when we're down there 1 to 2 weeks a year, and then we rent out the rest of the time? So in 2019, we purchased a 2-bed, 2-condo off market. It was actually just a friend of my father-in-law's that was looking to sell. So we purchased it fully furnished for $165,000. A year later, we did a cash out refi, dropped our interest rate down to 2.875%, which I don't think we'll ever see that again in my lifetime. But mortgage principal and interest is under $600 a month. Our peak season, February of 2024, we're actually going to be getting about $3,600 a month. So it's been cash flowing really good for us. And just looking at comps in about 4.5 years, the property value is about doubled. So I kind of consider that an all around win, even though it started off as hey, let's have a place to stay when we go down to visit Arizona.
Nice. That's a smart way to do it. Definitely, it's and a lot of books talk about this. But again, invest in someplace you like to go. Either you're going for family, you're going for personal reasons, just for enjoyment. But yeah, if you invest in a place like that, then perfect. You get to use it at least part of the year. Yep. So
exactly.
Very nice. Very nice.
Per tax code, I'm not a tax attorney, but you can use it up to 14 days a year for yourself and still get all the depreciation benefits. So
exactly. And if you actually have it rented, just say you have it rented 250 days a year, which is, for short-term rental, that would be incredible to rent it 250 days a year. But the point is that if it's 250 days a year, then you get to use that property up to 25 days yourself, 10% of the of the amount of days it's leased.
Interesting. I didn't know.
I don't think that's in addition to the 2 weeks that you mentioned, but I think it's in lieu of. But still, but again, obviously, if you got a place that's in great demand, you can, it doesn't necessarily have to be that you're only limited to the 2 weeks, but obviously check with your tax attorneys, your CPA, because I'm certainly not a CPA, but or a tax attorney. But anyway, but yeah, definitely check on that. But that is, to my knowledge, is certainly an option as well. So, John, in your more recent real estate and private lending days, et cetera, is there a funny story that's happened to you recently?
Let's see. Funny story that's happened to me recently. Boy, now that I'm being on the spot here, I would say probably the biggest thing of just, I come across so many people. So another hat I wear is I'm a licensed real estate agent. I try to help people get into investing as well. And I'm just astonished of how many veterans out there that don't know that they can utilize the VA program, put up or down to 0% down, buy a single family or up to a fourplex and rent out the other units, live in one, and basically have your rent subsidized. Well, you have the mortgage payment subsidized to begin with, but then you have your payments paid off by your tenants. And I'm just astounded that very few agents seem to know this. And I kind of chuckle because it's one of those things that since I know it, I think everyone else does, but I've just come across, I've yet to speak to one veteran that has been told that by any other agent. So I just think that even for the ones that have been in the business 10, 20, 30 plus years, I think they're doing a great disservice by not letting veterans know, hey, this is a great way to increase your income and increase your wealth. I think they're just so focused on, I got to find this person a home.
Right. That's a great point. Yeah, definitely. It is an option out there for certainly, and that's a huge benefit for veterans. And, I think they deserve it. There's also, I think everybody knows about a first-time home buyer program where a lot of times you can get into something for not a lot of money down. But there's also, depending upon where in the country you are, there's another program called USDA. Literally USDA, as in the people that check your prime steak, that it's, but again, it's a lending program where you can get into. It doesn't apply to all parts of the country, so you'd have to check into it. And I do understand it's a difficult loan to get, but if you can get it, it can be pretty beneficial in terms of some of the
Agreed.
So yeah.
Yeah, I've only had one instance of that in my career so far, but I agree. If it works good, the numbers make sense, it can be a great program too. So,
Well, John, where are you today in your journey? Like you said, you have multiple streams of income now with the investing, the real estate brokerage hat, the debt fund or debt lending. Where are you today, and where you envision yourself going?
Where I'm at today. So, as far as real estate investing, I've kind of taken a little step back, just not only so much rates, but just the numbers don't make as much sense as they used to. I'm still kind of old school, 1% rent to value. Yeah, I'll do 0.8, but I've seen deals as low as 0.5. That is just like, you better pray nothing happens or nothing breaks. With that being said, I've kind of noticed, okay, if rates are higher, yeah, that's bad news as the borrower, but that might be good news as the lender. So I've actually stepped up more of my private lending through trust deed sales. There's a company I work with, Ignite Funding. I've done a lot of deals with them. So I've actually about doubled my business with them over the last 24 months. Probably hope to continue that going down the line because they're starting to get more 11, 12% returns secured by real estate. So I figure it's kind of a win-win and might as well take advantage of the rising rates.
Nice. Yeah, that makes sense. Definitely something to check into. Yeah. So John, is there something that you do perhaps through your business or perhaps personally that you do in a way to give back to help others in some fashion?
Yeah. So there's a number of things. I'm all about financial education. So you can see above for those watching on YouTube anyways, you can see above my shoulder, W Freedom Nexus is my tagline on Twitter, now X, I guess, Instagram, YouTube, and then my podcast as well. I've also been, like I said, donate a lot of my time to volunteer causes through our local real estate association. But probably the biggest thing I like doing is every year I help with a local camp, Camp Love's Embrace. Is basically a meeting point for children, typically 13 and under, age 16 to 13 usually, that have lost a parent or significant other at an early age. And like I found when I was 11 and 16, when my dad and mom passed away respectively, there just aren't a lot of friends and people in your social group that can truly empathize with you. So where they can get together at a camp for a weekend camp, share their stories with others, not be as judged, and also talk to others where, yep, I lost my dad too. Yep, my brother was killed in a car accident, whatever. For me, that's just been kind of a really good way to giving back, especially since I wish there was something like that when I was younger.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great worthy cause. And it is hard, certainly. Yeah, I can't imagine, when you're that age to lose a parent or a sibling. Yeah, that's tough. So, wow.
Yeah, I should probably make a mention. We had a few years off just due to COVID and scheduling and everything, but hoping to kickstart that back up here next year. So
good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, is there something you've recently implemented in your business that's allowed you to scale?
I think really kind of the big thing is just the amount of networking I've done. So like I said, I've kind of taken a little back seat to the, real estate investing at this point, but I really wanted to check out, okay, when the time is right, I want to have dry powder available. So I've networked with a few local credit unions in Arizona. Hey, would you be willing to do a HELOC in addition to my, first lien position mortgage on our condo? And so far, we found 3 that are open to that idea. So hoping to have that established here in the near future. But then also really been researching the non-QM or qualified mortgage space. Right, wrong, or indifferent. The Freddie, Fannie, yes, can give you great fixed terms, 30-year loans at lower interest rates. But the paperwork and the qualifying can be a little bit of a struggle at times. So I'm looking at for my next one of going the non-QM route, 30 years, still fixed. Yeah, maybe a little bit higher on the interest rate, but nowhere near as complicated where they focus on the numbers of the property versus your personal income.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, if we found that to be the case as well. I mean, you can do a $30 million portfolio loan for commercial apartment building, and it's much easier than doing a second home or something as far as
exactly. Yeah, I've gone both routes, and it's like, wow, that's all the paperwork you need. Where I still remember, I think it was our one property in Birmingham where the underwriter was asking about a $5.01 transaction. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Right. Yeah. Crawl up the what and check everything out.
Yeah. Here's my blood sample, fingerprints, DNA analysis. What else do you need?
Yeah, really. Wow. So John, what advice would you give somebody who's considering making a path change?
I'd say if anyone's looking at making a path change, so one of my taglines is financial freedom, one bill at a time. So I always kind of look at it like I preach, focus on passive income streams and make yourself a little bit of a safety net before you make that jump of changing your career or leaving your career altogether. I always kind of joke about it, but it seems like everyone seems to have a Netflix subscription. So, okay, you're paying $15 for Netflix. Try to figure out a passive income stream, whether it's stocks, private lending, real estate syndication. What can you set up as a second source of income that pays $15, $20 a month? Just start small. And okay, my Netflix is now paid for by passive income. Then move on to your next highest bill. What's another income stream you can bring in, and just kind of work it as one bill at a time, where I think so many people get caught up of like, oh, 5, 10,000, whatever a month. That's just too big to get in passive income. I'll never get there. I'm like, well, start small and compound it. And, you'll find yourself getting there quicker than you probably thought.
All right. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of the Dave Ramsey snowball effect, right? They paid off the smallest debt first and keep going on it, and you're just rolling passive income. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. So, there's nothing wrong with the debt snowball. I just kind of looked at it, like you said, the passive income, and your mortgage might be $1,000 a month. That's a big, fish to try to catch, but start the smaller one.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. Well, Joe, what's the best way for our listeners to reach out and learn more about what you have going on?
So I always joke, mentioned this before, there's only 3 Rickgarns in the entire world, so I'm not hard to find. So if you even just type my name, John Rickgarn, in Google, you'll find many of my blog posts, podcast appearances, etc. Otherwise, keep it simple. Rickgarn.com takes you right to my webpage, all my social media channels, media appearances, what I'm doing. That's usually the best way to reach out.
Great. And we'll add those in the show notes below. Well, John, I really want to thank you for being on the Road Less Travel show today. Really enjoyed the conversation and wish you continued success.
Sounds good. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been a privilege.
John, absolutely. We really want to thank you for being on. We appreciate that so much. And we also want to thank our listeners. Please continue to give us a 5-star rating so we can bring you more great content like our show today with John Rickgarn. And again, please feel free to reach out to Bill and myself. We are happy to have a conversation anytime. at where it can be found at parkcapitalpartnersllc.com, parkcapitalpartnersllc.com. And just recapping a couple of quick things that the Park Capital Partners has going on. And that is, first, we have the 506c fund, Park Capital Partners Value Add Fund. That's open today to accredited investors. Second, we have the Park Capital Partners Foundation, which is a 501(c) nonprofit that Bill and I created as a way to give back. That works very quickly. First, in the fact that we fund the operations of it, so the money donated to it goes to do its best work, which is to help others. Second, we donate personally. Third, we donate corporately. And finally, when investors invest with us, we make a donation to honor that investor to a pre-selected list of 15 different charities. And that way, investors can not only make returns, but it can also feel good about helping somebody else along the way. So please reach out to us. Happy to talk anytime. And thanks again, John, for being on. Remember, folks, the road less traveled may be calling you. We recommend that you listen and take action. Thanks for joining.